And welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. I don't know if Nova's making any noise, but here we are, episode 229. The show that you forgot you were subscribed to. I believe that is the tagline for the show. We got a new setup to go along with. I finally figured out how to set things up where I don't look too stupid. But I mean, that's how life is. Or that's how things work for me. Is I look incredibly stupid doing whatever it is I do, including this. But if you're watching the video, new angle, baby, and nothing else is different. It's the same show. You can probably still hear the garbage trucks outside slamming things down. That's how it's called. That's how it's called. Hey, let's get into this. YouTube. Oh, the PS5 came, by the way. And it looks great. It's gigantic. Sitting inside of the slot of my TV stand where the PS4 is. And it is just sitting there alongside next to the Xbox Series X. And the Switch is all by itself behind the television. And now that that's complete, now I must play games. The controller is very interesting, though. That I watched a video on how the DualSense controller, it has those adaptive triggers. I think that's what they're called. And what it is on the inside, there's a mechanism, like a plastic kind of screw thing that twists, and it'll basically shorten the throw based on whatever you're doing in whatever game and whatever the developer decides to use it. And I was playing. I don't have many games that have PS5 upgrades from the PS4. So I have Tony Hawk, No Man's Sky, and I mean upgrades. I mean the free upgrades. There's plenty of games with upgrades. Just I'm not paying $10-$20 to play a game I've already played, even for it to look even better. It's so stupid. Anyway, so I downloaded Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. And also, it's incredibly confusing when you get the PS5, because on the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, when you download games that were made on Xbox One and they have this next generation version on the Xbox, they just download the version that works for your Xbox best. So you can download the 360 or the Xbox One version, but if there's a Xbox Series X version, like there is for Borderlands, or Gears, or Halo, or Forza, I'm going to name something else. I need one more. I will name one more, and that'll be it. You hear me? I can't think of one. I can't think of one at all. The Mass Effect collection. So if there's, or even, this is how I learned in the case of the MLB The Show 21. If there's an Xbox Series S or X version, then it'll download that one in lieu of downloading the Xbox One version. But on PS5, it just downloads both the PS4 and the PS5 version. So now on that 825 gigabytes, 40 is taken up by Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 on both the PS4 and the PS5. And then I couldn't figure out which one to load up. And then I couldn't figure out how to get my saves to work on the PS5 one. It's crazy. But now things more or less work. More or less. But still, I threw in Spider-Man, Marvel's Spider-Man, the first one, not the Miles Morales one, and that was and I knew that the cloud saves were on the console, but it still had trouble recognizing that. And so then for 2 days I said, you know what, I'm just not gonna try that one and see how it looks. And then I loaded up yesterday on Sunday, the 23rd. So the 20 let's see, the 23rd. So the 21st is when I put in the disc for the PS4 Spider-Man. Then I loaded up on PS5 again 2 days later, and then it finally works. The save game works. So anyway, that's the saga of what I've been doing. There's nothing going on in my life. That's why I spend all of the very little money I have on video games and food. To be fair, on food. So let's get into this. Speaking of spending money. Oh, God, my voice sounds so good. Oh, yeah, baby. This angle looks so good. I'm looking at myself in the computer monitor here. This next one comes from Nelly Andriva over at Deadline. YouTube to phase out most originals, double down on creator-generated content. So the writing was on the wall. There had over the past couple of years, YouTube started out as YouTube Red, not YouTube. YouTube Red. YouTube started getting into the streaming game by creating YouTube Red, which was going to be the platform on YouTube for people for basically shows and movies and things like that. The shows and movies, some of them were great and went on to do great things, like Cobra Kai, which was eventually sold to Netflix. Do You Want to See a Dead Body, starring Rob Hubel and featuring a cast of just amazing comedic people. And then, sadly enough, YouTube just kind of Google, what they do is they just stop, the company just stops doing things that if it sees something's not going right, they'll just go, okay, this is good enough for us. And then they started focusing mostly on documentary things, mostly musical documentaries, but documentaries about their talent on YouTube, the people who are there. I don't know any YouTubers anymore because I have taken it into my own heart to unfollow or to unsubscribe from a bunch of people. But anyway, so YouTube had already previously been doing the premium business for a long time, but without naming it under YouTube Red. Then they eventually became YouTube Premium, and then focused on that. But prior to that, they were already paying people to do quote unquote YouTube Originals before they actually named it YouTube Originals and YouTube Red and YouTube Premium and all that stuff. Oh yeah, there's a Step Up. There was a Step Up TV show. Man, that's crazy. And if I recall, like Cobra Kai and Step Up, for what it's worth, were really well produced and good. So unfortunately, they have been kind of quiet on that front when it comes to the originals, and now we're getting word that they're basically just stopping this stuff. It's for the people who are on YouTube essentially to make the stuff. YouTube's return to its roots as a platform the platform for user-generated content is complete. Following the news that YouTube global head of original content Suzanne Daniels has resigned after more than 6 years, YouTube Chief Business Officer Robert Kinkel just announced the streamers retreat from original programming to focus on creator-driven initiatives such as Creator Shorts Fund, Black Voices Fund, and live shopping programming. Jesus. Oh my God, what is going on in this world? Let's see. So there is a tweet from Kinkel, and the name is KYNCL, so I assume it's Kinkel, and I don't care about saying it right. Today there are over 2 million creators in the YouTube partner program, and our creator community has never been more successful. We've paid more than $30 billion to creators, artists, and media companies over the last 3 years. But if you notice, a lot of people, by having 2 million creators, that makes it sound like people are making a lot of people are making a living off of this, when in fact a lot of people are not. And then besides the creators program, there's also the advertising you can do in video. There's also sponsorships outside of YouTube and all that stuff. 2 million creators, you still have to have, I think, like 10,000 subscribers and enough people watching that you are able to get the previously mentioned ability to advertise commercials before, in the middle, and during your video, which is different from advertisers, paying you to do ads inside of the video programming that you create. They say there's a lot of growth opportunities and things like that, but I think the bigger story here is them stepping outside of the originals platform and just going, hey, we're going to do more regular stupid stuff, which is insane. And so now we're going to the biggest story. I did not start a timer, which is my fault, so I have to look at the recording time on OBS over here. And I guarantee you can probably hear the recycling truck outside now. very loud. YouTube, excuse me, Microsoft has purchased Activision. Now, this story was broken by the Wall Street Journal last Monday, I think, January 18th. It was a rumor. It was so Activision has been in a bit of a pickle. For the past couple of months. There has been a lot of essentially proven allegations over there saying that leadership and, just generally the atmosphere was just kind of broy, and there were a lot of mistreatment of women and people. Or, like I'm saying, women are different from people. That's like when Mitch McConnell last week said, he said black Americans were different from, he said regular Americans. It's, yeah. Anyway, that women and other workers were mistreated over there, and basically no one did anything about it, and a lot of people were mistreated, and a lot of people were a part of the mistreatment itself. So Microsoft agreed to buy within, I think I heard the rumor Monday that day. But I don't think anyone saw this coming. And if you did, then you're way more tapped in. If you're watching the video and you see me adjusting my headphones multiple times, I just washed my hair and I don't want the headband to press down on my hair and to make it flat. That's what I have to deal with. The deal is valued at all cash, $75 billion, making this, which I mentioned a little bit later, one of the biggest media acquisitions in history in gaming. I'll just jump to that story right now. This comes from All right, so the original story comes from Wall Street Journal, written by Cara Lombardo, Kristen Grind, and Aaron Tilley. I want to say something about Wall Street Journal. I like Wall Street Journal. I do. I understand that it leans a little bit to the right, and that is my biggest issue with it. Now, upon saying that, the editorial board released a short little opinion piece this morning called "Censoring Center Cinema." And I would say this: I do not like this post. I don't like them siding with the right on a lot of things. And you know what? It pisses me off. And that's why I will continue to cancel the Wall Street Journal right before it starts charging me $35 and getting a cheaper subscription. Because as much as I like some of the writers there, I don't like BS like that. Okay. So the second part of the story, with the $75 billion deal from Microsoft to Activision, written by Eddie Mokich over at GameSpot. He quotes $68.7 billion. I guess that is... Anyway, I'm going to round it up to 75 with the rest of everybody else. So it's the biggest ever in gaming. This is the biggest deal ever in gaming. It's three times bigger what Microsoft paid for LinkedIn in 2016. And now, while this is the largest acquisition in gaming, it's not bigger. It's only dwarfed in comparison. Who's dwarfed? It's only dwarfed in comparison by Disney's deal with Fox. And it's funny. People are reacting to this deal as if it's the end. They're creating a monopoly. It's the end of gaming as we know it. This is the only way Microsoft can beat Sony. What if Microsoft buys Nintendo? What if they make Call of Duty only an Xbox exclusive? But when Disney bought Fox and, thousands of people lost their jobs, people were like, finally. Yes. Great. The X-Men can hang out with the Avengers. Nobody said anything. It's crazy. Disney had at that point when Disney bought Fox, Disney had a 40% combined with Fox, 20th century. Disney had a 40% hold on the box office that year. So it just, you can't be for one and then not for the other. Other big gaming acquisitions include Take-Two's $12.7 billion buyout of Zynga, which was announced last week. Oh my god, the week prior to this. And then Tencent bought $8.6 billion. I believe Tencent owns, or for $8.6 billion for Clash of Clans developer Supercell. I believe Tencent might be the TikTok owners. I'm not entirely sure, and I'm not gonna look it up. I don't want to. That's not the story we're talking about. Activision Blizzard bought out Candy Crush studio King in 2015 with $5.9 billion renos. Ooh, I already handled that ahead of time. It's great. I'm good. I'm good at what I do. EA paid out $860 million to acquire BioWare. You know, it's. I also think of. I think I saw a headline last week that said EA and Blizzard, prior to the Microsoft deal, were talking about consolidating and becoming a company because EA's had its own issues as well, which would make sense. They're both companies are just obsessed with making money via the little boxes and little deals. Oh, so the deal is valued at $68.7 billion after adjusting for Activision's net cash, said Microsoft. So continuing on, Microsoft had to. So obviously, after this was announced, Microsoft is, people were like, "This is going to be the end of gaming," all that stuff, and I just mentioned. And again, Disney bought 20th Century Fox. No one batted an eye. I just quoted the Joker from The Dark Knight. I don't know. Let me go pause the video so we can go watch that movie again. Microsoft put out a statement basically quelling fires, saying we're going to honor this. This comes from news.xbox.com from Xbox Wire, written by Phil Spencer, the CEO, who basically turned the ship on Xbox when during the Xbox One period, when they were focused on TV and entertainment. Although I do miss the HDMI in port on the Xbox Series X. God, the Xbox One, the original with that HDMI in, you can watch cable through it. It was just a waste of energy. But you know what? It's so convenient. Especially like being in college and just being able to plug in like a Chromecast or something. Or like another device, what have you, through that port. Obviously, there's a little bit of lag and latency, but who cares? So basically, what Phil Spencer was saying is that they're happy to have all of these. There's a ton of studios that make up Activision Blizzard. That's basically just the Activision used to be a company and Blizzard used to be a company, and then they came together to be one company. And they're gonna now they own franchises like Overwatch and Diablo, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Candy Crush, and StarCraft. It's so funny to see Candy Crush next to everything else, and that also includes Spyro, Crash. More Call of Duty games than I care to talk about, and all that stuff. So there are going to be more Activision Blizzard games on Game Pass for Xbox, for the regular console, and for PC. That's great. Microsoft says they plan to honor existing contracts for Call of Duty, so that means or for games that are on other consoles, which is just freaking Sony and PC and stuff. So PlayStation Plus and PlayStation and Nintendo and all that stuff. And they would lose money. They would lose more money if they chose to take Call of Duty off of PlayStation, which I don't see happening. But that's what they want to talk about. They have a new leadership team that's made up of a bunch of white people and a couple of browns. A lot of women though, which is nice to see. And Activision and Blizzard, until the transaction actually closes and Microsoft Gaming will continue to operate independently. Of course, they have to go through antitrust deals and stuff with Congress and everything. At which point, I do believe that some of the studios will be sold off. I think so, or maybe broken up in some sort of way. So let's move on to this. Comes from Kristen Grine over at Wall Street Journal. Activision Blizzard pushes out dozens of employees over workplace misconduct. So as I mentioned before, there was misconduct, and that's a good way to put it. There were several allegations. Oh my God. of sexual harassment and misconduct. An Activision spokeswoman, Helene Klasky, confirmed that 37 people have exited and 44% have been disciplined. 37 people and 44 people have been disciplined as part of the company's investigation. She disputed the 700 figure because apparently there were 700 reports. Okay, of all that stuff. This has been again, this harassment thing has been an ongoing issue for the past year. I think that people have known about this. And I guess I only started paying attention in this summer because that's when it started getting heated up. Nearly a fifth of Activision's roughly 10,000 employees signed a petition calling for Mr. Kotick to resign. You know what? He showed up. There were so obviously when a company gets bought out, they talk to the people because a lot of the people that work there, because a lot of people don't know what's going on. I've been a part of that conversation, and then I've been laid off as a part of that conversation. This is why I don't support scripts. This is a very true thing. So he showed up late to a meeting to assure people that everything's fine, and then he left early, which is crazy to be in the middle of a meeting. People are like a company-wide meeting talking to, let's say, 1,500 employees, and then the guy who's supposed to be in charge of it all to be like, hey, what's up, guys? Like coming in like party guy, they just like leaves. That's ridiculous. And he should lose his job, and I think at some point he will. The problem is they have to give him a payout. But those dozens have been ousted, and we're waiting for others to be ousted. And this comes from Eurogamer, written by Ed Nightingale. Microsoft to review its sexual harassment and gender discrimination policies. And Microsoft has had its own harassment issues, most recently with Bill Gates, who stepped down from the Microsoft board in 2020. It was revealed that he had sexual activities, proclivities, I guess. I don't know. He's had his own issues with like interns and stuff, and then he's hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, doing Jeffrey Epstein stuff. The review is in response to an advisory shareholder resolution during the 2021 annual shareholders meeting and will be carried out by law firm Arendt Fox, as shared in a document from Microsoft. So there we go. And there's I believe, God, I should have written this down. There was a new union was formed by the Game Workers Alliance. And I will link to The Verge on this one. Actually, you know what? I'll link to Polygon because that has the oldest article. Whatever one I see first is the one I give the credit to. I saw one from December. My God. Raven Software QA workers unionize within Activision Blizzard. This comes from Nicole Carpenter. The QA workers are the ones who work on Call of Duty Warzone. And by QA, I mean quality assurance. What QA workers do is they make sure the game is playable or aspects of the game are playable and run right. So they'll be doing, God, I was a QA person for Scripps property, for a now Scripps property. Let's see. They essentially what they do is they just play a part of a game or the entire game or whatever. They do the same thing over and over to make sure that there are any bugs, make sure that they can replicate bugs that need to be fixed, things of that sort. So those people have been on strike since early December after Activision Blizzard denied new contracts for 12 members of the team. The strike of, quote, several dozen workers, according to Washington Post, has no end date, and management has yet to respond to workers' demands. So the new union is called, or they're working with the Communication Workers of America. They call themselves the Game Workers Alliance, the QA people, and it's the first group of workers to form a unit under Activision Blizzard. Now, workers are asking the company to voluntarily recognize the union, which has support of the, quote, supermajority of Raven Software QA workers, 78% of the eligible workers. In Activision Blizzard, this comes from an update in the same article, has issued a statement regarding the Game Workers Alliance request for voluntary recognition. Activision is reviewing it, blah, 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 which seeks to organize around 36 of the company's nearly 10,000 employees. I said 1,500 employees from Activision Blizzard, which is way too low based on how many studios make up that entire company. Whatever. I'm sorry. And then Activision basically says we raised pay, we gave them time off, and we're just trying to see if this is applicable to us. Which, I mean, game, just like any medium or type of job, everybody needs a union, and companies try to scare them away, try to scare away people from signing up for things, for unionizing and everything, and it makes sense for them, but for the workers, it just, in the long run, it's better for them to go with unions, especially in video games, especially in blue collar jobs like working in a factory, because unions can help you out in ways that working for a regular company can't. Although police unions, we know that those things can be tricky little bees. I mean, because police officers can do some pretty bad things and then continue to work. Anyway, so this comes from the Hollywood Reporter, George Zalai. Activision stock gets analyst upgrade on win-win Microsoft deal as Electronic Arts next. So again, this continues with the narrative that this is consolidation, and are there going to be more studios that have to sell in order to become, I guess, profitable again. I mean, if you didn't watch the CNBC stocks, Activision Blizzard stocks basically just jumped exponentially the day this was announced, and the same thing happened for Microsoft stocks. But the Activision Blizzard stocks just skyrocketed. Let's see. The consolidation will continue, and now EA is being looked to next. One analyst notes scale matters in dynamic industries such as video games. Who's next? Based on today's events, we would think Sony would at least want to kick the tires on Electronic Arts or Take-Two, as the number of independently owned billion-dollar franchises with cross-platform potential become more scarce. Because video games are important, and especially over the pandemic, they've really became a way for people to escape, for lack of a better term, or lack of better phrases. Have I gotten everything? I think I did. Look at me. I even added a thing. So there we go. That's what's happening over at Microsoft. And we'll see where this takes us for. I know I said that a lot, but this is consolidation is, in the short term, this is a very good deal for Microsoft. But when we get to a point where one game that used to be available everywhere is now only available on one thing and in one form, in one fashion, then it's, not everybody is eager enough to go out and buy another console or to support multiple plastic boxes that can do all virtually the same thing. Essentially, is what it is. I like video games. Video games are great. But there's only so many studios and so many people making video games versus, for television and film. There's a lot of people have their hands in stuff. Anyway, Microsoft, goodbye. Oh, hey, I like that one. Hey, listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to comedians. Sometimes I haven't done it in a couple of months. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Oh, excuse me. If you want to see a video version of this show, head to youtube.com/cpluscomedy. Where, oh God, the camera shut off on me as right as look. I'm about to end, brother. Where you can see a video version of me, youtube.com/cpluscomedy. There's also God, what is it called? News Time was our premier news show. I take one story, dive into it every week. Let's see. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram @cpluscomedy. Me on Twitter and Instagram @ChadBlackWhite. Like us on Facebook. Rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends about this stupid show, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening. I've enjoyed you. Goodbye.